When you're so high,
This is a quick video for you on why I use sidereal astrology on this channel, and I just want to make it clear from the start that I'm not a Vedic astrologer, and that sidereal astrology doesn't mean Vedic astrology. Sidereal astrology is using the sidereal calculator, which is working astronomically accurate with where we have the equinox in the constellations. So the vernal equinox used to happen in Aries. This is really around the time that the Greeks took all of the wisdoms from Babylon. It arrived in Greece about 500 AD, and then they developed a system that we still use today. But there has been a shift. There's been a shift within the Earth's equator. So the Earth has two primary and secondary motions. The primary motion is that around the sun, okay, like all of the other planets orbit around the sun. That is the Earth's primary motion. Its secondary motion is the one on its own axis, and so that's the Earth's secondary motion. And it actually has a third motion which affects the equator, although it's not something that is I wouldn't really know how to explain it, because it's something I'm still personally digesting. Like, there's a lot of deep physics involved in this, and that's why I think any path that you choose in spirituality is just ongoing work. You're always going to learn something new. That's the beauty of it. But in connection with the physics that I'm definitely been getting my head around over the last few years, the equator has shifted. And actually, this is something that my granddad was working on in South Africa. He was an engineer. He used to make nut machines, macadamia nut machines, and he was working on this. We used to stand there and he'd point out all the different constellations. And I'm at the moment gathering all of his work, and I hope to go through it and have a look at some of his lineage that he left. Hopefully be able to share some of his findings. But he would definitely, I remember him speaking about the shift in the Earth's equator, and now I understand a little bit more about what he was talking about. So we do have this shift in terms of how it's affecting the plane. That is something I have to get back to you on. But there is the third motion, which is the equator, and in connection with its spinning, almost like a spinning top, and the gravitational pull brings it down, and there's a shift there in the equator. Now, that shift is about 72 degrees every year, which you can imagine over sort of a few hundred years, you're not going to see much difference. But we are now over 2,000 years from when the tropical zodiac was first created. That means we're nearly a full sign out. And by out, I mean that the equinox is occurring in Pisces. It doesn't occur in Aries. And so when we are actually shifting ourselves with that very subtle shift that's happening, which they do in Vedic astrology, because they're using the sidereal calculator, we actually get a more accurate birth chart. Now, I used to be only the sidereal is the one that's right, tropical's wrong, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that. I think that we can use, especially at this time zone, the time that we're in now in 2022, I think that time on the planet, we can use the tropical zodiac as a form of a progressed chart or a progressed energy. And in that way, where I think where we're at now, it can be used as such, almost like looking at sort of where we're going or where our energy can progress to. Because remember, Pisces transitions to Aries, but to move through Aries, we've got to understand that Piscean energy. To be a Taurus, we've got to understand that Aryan energy, because it's all connected. So by the Sidereal Zodiac bringing us back 22 degrees, we actually learn, or from my perspective, from what I've experienced myself, what I've experienced working with different people, different souls, is that there are definitely deeper keys that are unlocked in connection with the soul codes and sidereal astrology. That's not to say that the tropical astrology you found and had an amazing reading with and had a life-changing moment and an awakening of some sort with them doesn't dilute any of their work or what they shared with you. You were supposed to find that astrologer for the system that they're working with. So there's no right or wrong, it's a different lens. But I do believe that there to be a certain accuracy in the Sidereal Zodiac that can't be overlooked, and really it shouldn't be overlooked. And it would be great if there were more sidereal astrologers, you know, to balance out the whole weight of tropical astrology that we have mainstream. That said, it's definitely on the rise, and it's also wise to note as well that in about 483 years we're not going to be just 22 degrees back. We're going to be more than a full sign out. So, you know, how would that then work as a progress chart? I don't know. It's 400 years on. But where we're at now, I sense that the tropical zodiac can be used as a progress chart, as an interesting layer. But I think the true soul codes come through the electrical imprint of the stars when you're born. And I remember having this meditation, it was very, very clear, where I just had this kind of bubble around me and all of these different stars. And, you know, just we are our own universe. So when we come out of the womb, and in Vedic astrology, they talk about actually, you know, the digesting period and the astrology of the formation of the human. But that moment, just I guess from my perspective, that moment that you come out of the womb, there is an electrical impact that is happening as you come into this reality, this dimensional reality. And it's like a snapshot, electricity, a photograph. And it's an electricity of the stars. There is a transmission of energy. There are codes that are imprinted. And that's why I like to use the astronomy, because it takes into consideration the full percentage of the constellation. It takes into all of the stars included within that constellation. It doesn't just include a few stars and then dismiss the rest, which is what's happening now in tropical astrology as we slowly move back because of the equator shifting. Anyway, so I hope that makes sense, and I look forward to sharing more with you.